Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. And we're just about to start. And I thought, I guess some of you might have already seen this video, but I have a bit of an introduction video. So a little bit about myself. So I thought maybe images are better than words. So I guess the video is self-explanatory. So my name is Marta, I work as a psychologist, and I have spent a few years in India. And my intention with this workshop is to share what I have learned and also to integrate, as I mentioned, East and West knowledge in a secular manner. Last year, so you guys see my teacher on screen. Last year I was in India for 6 months again, anyway, and I had a private audience with him, and he said to me, Marta, if you teach about the mind, your life will be meaningful. So then I took his advice to heart, and then I decided, okay, not only teaching about the mind, but I will then start off my project, Citta Psychologist, which has 3 pillars of psychotherapy, meditation sessions, workshops, and also working on a book. So not only teach about the mind, I also thought, but also to write about the mind in terms of what we have learned in India and my personal experiences and so on. So my intention here is to share what I have learned in my own journey of well-being, but also to repay his kindness, because he has been such a source of wisdom and compassion that I would like to be, I guess, the bridge between people and his wisdom and his true compassion, if that makes any sense. So what is the workshop about? So the name of the workshop, so I decided to call the workshop Emotional Balance and Meditation. So what is emotional balance? And most importantly, what is happiness, right? So happiness is a skill, emotional balance is a skill, but what is happiness? How do we define happiness? I guess all of us, human beings and also living beings in general, we have the same aspiration, which is to be happy. So we always strive to have happiness, which is so simple yet so difficult, to be happy and not to experience any distress or suffering. And from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to sleep, we engage in so many different activities. But how much happiness do we really experience, right? Because we live these days, modern society, we live such a headache lifestyle, but how much happiness do we really experience from everything that we do? And what is happiness anyway? Right? So, and have in mind that we all have this goal to be happy, which sounds so simple. Yes, happiness. But happiness is not something that falls from the sky or grows from the ground, or they can be bought in a shop, but we try to buy. And it's not something that can be given to us by anyone, even though we always have that hope that, someone will be the source of our happiness. So where do we find this happiness? What is happiness all about? So I will, again, let's get the experts to, let's hear the experts. So there's a short video, it's only 2 minutes. This is Alan Wallace. What is happiness?
To address the question of happiness, what is it? Why not go back to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle? That's part of our culture. These very wise ancient Greeks made a distinction between hedonia, not something vulgar or coarse. I would define it as any kind of pleasure we get that comes in response to some pleasant stimulation. It could be seeing your children grow up happy. It could be having an ice cream cone. It could be enjoying beautiful weather. It could be enjoying a difficult problem in mathematics, enjoying all kinds of things, but you're enjoying it because there's something there that's bringing you enjoyment. And that's a type of happiness. And by and large, money can buy it. Or if you can't get it with money, you can get it with prestige or power. And so that's one type of happiness. And to show that this is not trivial, the kind of happiness you have by having enough to eat, by having clothing, shelter, medical care when you need it, and education. That's all hedonic. And we all know there's nothing trivial about that. But then we can ask, is that all there is to happiness? Now we know by hedonia, it's not just being hedonistic and just going for sensual desires all the time. And the ancient Greeks and many other great wise people of the past, including the Buddha and many others, East and West, have highlighted that there's another whole dimension or no domain of happiness, and the Greeks called it eudaimonia. It's genuine well-being. And this is something that comes from within. It's something we bring to life rather than we get from life, and it operates on different dimensions. If we lead an ethical way of life, and by that I mean something very simple, a life that's oriented around the principles of nonviolence and benevolence. That's basically all of Buddhist ethics, and many people can relate to that. If we just stop right there, that's good. If we really orient our lives around these principles, then there's a sense of well-being. The Buddha called it the joy of having a clear conscience, you know, and it is a joy. It's a sense of ease, a sense of contentment that my presence on the earth here has not been of harm. In fact, I think I've done some good. And even if I never meditate for a moment, that's already good, and there's a satisfaction in that. So there's one dimension. There's the dimension of eudaimonia that comes from cultivating the mind, cultivating the heart, cultivating powers of attention, samadhi, cultivating wisdom, cultivating compassion, and so on. And so then even when you're in solitude, maybe even years of solitude, your mind itself is found to be a wellspring of happiness, of eudaimonia. And then finally, there is a sense of joy, it even can be bliss, by coming experientially to know the nature of reality, who you actually are, what's the nature of awareness, what's the nature of reality. And the great sages of history have said this is the deepest form of happiness, the happiness of knowing reality as it is. And I take that at face value. And that, the pursuit of that type of eudaimonia, from ethics, from the cultivation of the heart and mind, and from coming to know reality as it is, I would then, as a disciple of the Dalai Lama, His Holiness Dalai Lama since 1971, he has said this is the very purpose of life, the very meaning of life, and I fully agree with that.
So basically, from what he has explained, both the Greeks and also Asian scholars, there's a difference here. They made a distinction between two levels of happiness, right? So there is one level of happiness and satisfaction that comes in through the senses, and as he explained, is not trivial in any way, right? So we all know how important it is to have a good place to live, to have nutritious food, to have health care when we need it, and so on. So it's not trivial in any way. However, if we were to ask ourselves, is that all that there is to happiness, then we start to realize that, okay, we have all those things, especially, let's say, in a country like Australia, where the external conditions are, pretty amazing. So why is that we also see high rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide rates, right? So why is that? So what is missing from that equation? Right, so, and that shows us that by only having external positive conditions, that is not sufficient for us to have well-being. Because if it was, it means that all of us would be experiencing a lot of joy and happiness 24/7, but that's not the case. Well, not in my experience. So what is missing from that equation, right? So, and that's when we can think about then the second level of happiness, of well-being, which is... So there is a second level of happiness, right, that comes from cultivating the mind, cultivating the heart, cultivating certain mental states, which are the causes of well-being. All right, so back to the two different levels of happiness. So the first level of happiness, which is not trivial in any way, we can think about pleasant stimulation or experiences that we get from the senses, right? And there's a second level of happiness that it is... that comes from within ourselves, right? So, so two levels of happiness, right? So the first one that comes in from the senses, and the second one that we can think about coming from within ourselves, right? Cultivating the mind, cultivating the heart. So in our experience, so from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to sleep, we engage in so many different activities. So how much genuine well-being or happiness do we really experience in our lives, right? And I guess because what we mainly try to do, we try to pursue things, external things all the time, because we have the hope that those things are going to bring us they're going to bring us happiness, and they do. However, it is a short-term happiness And for example, if you were to bring to mind, let's say, the thrill or the excitement of buying something, right? Like, I just bought a house, I just bought a new car, I just started a new relationship. Yes, it's so exciting in the beginning. And then as the time goes by, then we want to buy a new phone, we want to buy a new car, we want to change houses, or we want to renovate our houses, or we know I need a new partner, then I needed to go to Europe, I need to go on holidays. So there's always this kind of wanting for more and more things. And that's really exhausting in a way, if that makes any sense. So let's just take a moment, and now I'll just ask you guys just to turn your attention inwards a bit, just a bit of a contemplation, right? This is a meditation workshop. So if we were to take a few minutes to reflect on these two levels of happiness and our daily choices. As I said, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, what are our daily choices, right? How often do we pursue stimulus-driven experiences as a source of happiness? Think about the pursuit of any pleasant stimulation coming in through the 5 senses: sights, sounds, smell, taste, and touch. How often do we pursue these types of experiences as our primary source of happiness? How often do we engage in activities that cultivate inner well-being? What kind of activities do we engage in a daily basis that cultivate inner well-being as opposed to experiences that comes from sensorial objects? And overall, what is our current feeling of happiness and well-being? 1 to 5. 1, not at all. 5, extremely happy and joyful all the time. If we contemplate on all the joys and pleasures that we have experienced, we see how they are just fleeting moments of joy, temporary happiness. Once they are gone forever, without any lasting benefit. They lead us to the suffering of dissatisfaction, which lead us to constantly strive for more and better sensorial pleasures. And so far, whatever we have experienced, it has not been enough. We are still on the outlook for something more, something better, never reaching any satisfaction. It's like desire and dissatisfaction belong together. Because of dissatisfaction, we generate desire for something that will make us happy. And we always think that the very next thing is going to be the right thing for us. The happiness is just around the corner. But then, whatever we experience, it might give us a temporary sense of relief, but then the next thing we know, again, we feel dissatisfied. So it's like a never-ending cycle. We follow our desires in order to overcome dissatisfaction, only to find ourselves dissatisfied again. Never finding what we are looking for. We expect satisfaction, but all we find is another dissatisfaction. And we continue unceasingly to spin in this endless cycle. That was exactly how I felt when I resigned from my job in 2017 and I left for India. Like, I had everything someone my age aspire for. I had a good job, I had friends, I was living in a beautiful place. Why wasn't I happy? Why was I still feeling dissatisfied? Well, I wasn't doing any cultivation of inner well-being. right? And then, okay, let's go to India. And for me, it was like, okay, I'm just going to go on a holiday. And I like to travel. So for me, it was like, oh, just another trip, right? But then it was a different experience because it wasn't an external journey, but it was an inner journey that turned into an inner journey to exploring the nature of the mind and emotions and really trying to cultivate the mind to find this inner source of well-being and contentment. Okay. Another reflection. So this is from Krishnamurti in his book called What Are You Doing With Your Life? Which I just bought this book recently, and I just was reading and I found this and I thought, okay, this is kind of a really interesting reflection for tonight as well about happiness. Some will say that happiness consists of getting what we want. Yes, we want a car and we get it and we are happy. We want a sari, I guess it's Indian. We want a sari, we want clothes, we want a house, we want a car, we want a partner, we want kids, we want a trip to Europe and we get it, we are happy. And if we want to be, let's say, he says he's the greatest politician, a celebrity, sports person, whatever it is, and we get it, we are happy. If I cannot get it, I am unhappy. So what you call happiness is getting what you want, what we want, achievement or success, becoming noble or becoming, I guess, famous, celebrity these days, getting anything that you want. As long as you want something and you can get it, we feel perfectly happy and we are not frustrated. But if we cannot get what we want, then happiness begins. And that's life, right? That's, that was my life as well. So as soon as I get what I want, I'm happy. When I don't get what I want, I'm frustrated. I'm unhappy. And even when I get what I want, then what happens is I'm afraid that I'm going to lose what I have. I'm afraid that my partner one day will run away. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my job. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my house. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my friends, right? So also this, that creates fear and anxiety because we hand over our source of well-being to external conditions that they're not reliable because one day, right, we're going to face three things in our lives, and we have been facing three things in our lives. So one is not getting what we want, right? Not getting the job that we want, not getting the relationship that we want, not, buying the house that we want, not having the holidays in Europe that we want, but also losing what we like. So we're all going to face the problem of losing what we like or being separated from things that are important for us. And oftentimes we will encounter situations that we do not wish for. So this is life. So whenever we experience these three conditions, there's frustration, there's disappointment, there's sadness, right? So this is how we live our lives. And that's how my life is as well. So what is that to happiness, which is not stimulus driven? Is that possible to find an inner sense of well-being that doesn't primarily rely on external conditions? And again, it's not that those external conditions are trivial, because they're not. We definitely need a good place to live. We need friends, we need family, we need a job, we need money, we need all of these things. We need good food, good clothing, we need holidays, yes, but is that all that there is to happiness? Or is there another level of happiness that we don't even know about it? So this is the question perhaps to ask ourselves in terms of what is happiness and what is emotional balance, because if emotional balance is just pursuing endlessly external objects that leads to dissatisfaction, so what kind of emotional balance are we going to experience in our lives? Okay, so happiness, back to happiness. So my teacher, he always explains, how does he describe happiness? So normally he says that happiness can be described as being well-being of body and well-being of mind, and mainly well-being of mind. So whenever we have emotional, mental well-being, well, this is happiness. And also to have physical well-being, this is also a condition for us to have happiness. And we can also think about happiness as a result, right? It's not something that falls from the sky or that grows from the ground, that can be bought in the shop. So it is a result. And what does it mean? So it means we need causes. We need the causes and conditions to have the result. So this might not make much sense in the beginning, but it's okay, because I think we spent quite a few months studying the law of cause and effect. So it's something that does take some time to get our heads around. So, but if I was to give a very tangible example, so a tangible example would be, so probably all of us have done some gardening. So when we try to do, or we work on our veg garden, we have the seed, right? We go to Bunnings and we buy a whole bunch of seeds and we try to have our veg garden. However, we all know from experience that only the seeds alone are not enough to have the result of the veg garden, right? What else do we need? We need the fertilizer, we need the soil, we need the sun, the water, and the gardener. We need the person who's going to actually work on the garden. And this is kind of a tangible example that we all have experienced and we understand. And it's kind of interesting also because, especially here, so in Western Australia, so if there's too much sun, what happens to the veg garden? There's no veg garden. If there's too much water, if there's not enough water, what happens to the veg garden? There's no veg garden. So that shows us that to have a result, we need to have the complete collection of all the conditions necessary to get the result, right? So the same applies to happiness. So all those external conditions, they are causes of happiness, yes, sure. But what is the main cause or the substantial cause of happiness, right? So if we were to make then that comparison, the seed is the main cause or the substantial cause of the sprout, right? Because the seed turns into the sprout. The wood turns into the wooden table, right? So that's the main cause of the table is the wood from the tree. However, how many other conditions are necessary for us to have this table? There's plenty of other conditions. So the same rationale applies to happiness. So we can think of happiness as a result, and there's two sets of causes. So we can think about external causes of happiness, which are very important. But then we have to think about, okay, what is the substantial cause of happiness, the main cause of happiness? And if we were, again, so there's a bit of a reflection. I know perhaps there's a lot of information. But let's think for a moment. So, and again, the example, so especially in Australia, we have all the good, positive external conditions around us. I don't know how many of you guys have traveled to developing countries like India or Brazil or anyway, some of those countries, and you see how the external conditions are not so as amazing as we have here, right? But oftentimes people in those countries, they seem to be a lot happier than people here, right? So that shows us, again, that external conditions alone are not sufficient, are not enough to have their well-being. So back to that reflection. So if happiness, as my teacher always describes, is well-being of body and well-being of mind, right? So we need to have both, and mainly happiness is well-being of mind. Whenever our minds are at peace and relaxed, well, this is happiness. We have well-being of mind. So a bit of a reflection again. If we take as an example someone who has a strong and healthy body, but has a mind filled with anxiety, worries, and fear. Then we take as another example, a person who has a chronic physical condition that causes significant bodily pain. So the person is always in pain, there's constant pain in the body. But this second person, he or she, they have a very relaxed and easygoing mind and a positive outlook on life. So both of these situations are certainly possible, right? So if we had to choose one between these two circumstances, which one would we choose? Would we prefer to have well-being of body and suffering of mind? Or would we prefer to have well-being of mind and suffering of body? It's kind of interesting, right? Because if our minds are open and relaxed and calm, even if we have certain physical health condition, we might be able to be more resilient, in a sense, to overcome that physical challenge just by having a different, more positive outlook on life. Okay, so what is mental health? This is very interesting. So up until talking about emotional well-being, happiness, and what is mental health, until at least the year 2000 and thereabouts, there was no definition for mental health in Western psychiatry. Mental health was only by default defined as the absence of mental illness. Yeah, great. It's very vague, right? And we're talking about year 2000 and thereabouts, so not that long ago. And I've just, I went on Google. That's what we do. We ask Google, right? So fast forward to year 2023. So if you guys go on the website of the World Health Organization, on the website, it says, so how is mental health currently defined? So it is defined as a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, to realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their community. Okay, better definition than the one from before. However, my question is a state of mental well-being. But what does that mean? How do we define a state of mental well-being? And what are the causes to achieve that state of mental well-being? What are the causes to have that, and what is that state of mental well-being? So still that definition is quite vague. And then after doing this research, one day I went to my teacher and I asked him, what is mental health? And again, he doesn't speak much English. These days he speaks better English. And then he gave a simple yet very profound explanation. So health. So the word in Tibetan language for health is pro-den. So there's two terms in the term health in Tibetan language, pro-den. And the den at the end means to rely. So to rely upon something. And tro means things which are suitable, agreeable with something. So then he said to me, well, mental health is to rely on what is suitable for the mind. Wow, yes, it sounds very simple, it's very profound. So to rely on things which are suitable for the mind. So then he always uses an analogy, which is, so what are the vitamins A, B, and C for the mind? So we all know very well what we need to do in life to have physical health. So, and what do we rely upon to have physical health? So we rely upon having a healthy lifestyle, exercise, and supplements and diet. Right, so these things are suitable for physical health. So then what are the things or the vitamins for the mind? What are the vitamins A, B, and C for the mind? Okay, a moment for reflection again. So just reflect for a moment. So what are these mental vitamins? What would be these vitamins that foster mental well-being? Pause for a moment and reflect upon a time in which your mind was peaceful and relaxed. Bring this situation to mind, in which you were at peace, your mind was relaxed. What did your mind rely upon? What kind of mental vitamins did you take? What kind of mental states or emotions were present in that moment in which you experience mental well-being and happiness and you had a relaxed mind? And likewise, reflect upon a time in which your mind was disturbed and unhappy. Just bring that situation to mind. Maybe something happened today. Maybe on the way to work, we got stuck in traffic, or we arrived late to work, or like today, we had some technical problems here, right? So we all encounter these situations, right? On a daily basis, we encounter situations we did not wish for. A planner, I was hoping that the night was going to run really smoothly without any technical problems, but then we come here and there's technical problems. So then what do? How does that impact our mind? So just to bring to mind a situation in which our minds was disturbed and unhappy. At that moment, in that situation, what did your mind rely upon? What kind of mental toxins, right? Mental vitamins. So what kind of toxins did you take? What kind of mental states or emotions were present in your mind in that moment? Just bring that situation to mind. What was happening inside the mind? What kind of frustration, disappointment? What was happening there? Okay. So that leads us to, okay, so this is a very important point here, because then we can think about emotions. So just a little bit of an introduction into science of mind and emotions. And I wish I had 5 hours, but I don't. So just a brief introduction. When we think about our emotions, and again, emotions and thoughts, they are not separated, right? They are connected. But so then the better term would be to say mental states or mental factors or healthy, unhealthy qualities of mind. So it's important then to make a distinction between positive emotions, negative emotions, healthy emotions, negative emotions or mental states. I'm using different terms, right? Constructive, destructive, positive, negative, healthy, unhealthy. What else? Yes, I think that's okay. So positive mental states or positive emotions, right? They are causes of happiness. And unhealthy negative emotions are causes of suffering, of distress and dissatisfaction, right? So inside our minds, we have both. We have both healthy qualities of mind and unhealthy qualities of mind, right? And what is really interesting is then by studying Buddhist science of mind, there is what is called the Abhidharma. So it is a very detailed mind map that contains 51 mental factors. So they have been able to describe our mental life in such a profound way that they develop this mind map that has 51 different mental factors. And what is very special about this mind map, something that we cannot find in Western psychology at all, which is this distinction between healthy mental states and unhealthy mental states, with such it is so precise and detailed. So whenever there is a negative or unhealthy quality of mind arising in our minds, then there's disturbance. And whenever there is a positive or healthy mental state, then we experience happiness and well-being. So briefly, so healthy mental factors, right? So they produce sukha. Sukha is a Sanskrit term which can be translated as happiness or well-being. And then in contrast, unhealthy mental states or unhealthy mental qualities, they have the long-term effect of dukkha. So dukkha is often translated as suffering, but we can also think about dissatisfaction as well. Dissatisfaction, suffering. So there's two, so we can think about our mental life in that sense. So there are emotions, positive emotions and negative emotions, and the more training we give to negative emotions or negative mental states, the more disturbance it creates, and the more we train our minds to experience to have positive emotions or healthy states, the more we experience well-being. Okay, a bit of a reflection again. So reflect for a moment about your own experience. So when we're learning something, especially when we're learning about the mind and emotion, it's very important to bring that to our experience, to integrate. It's not because someone is saying so that it is true. So it's very important to check, right? We need to check in our experiences that how does it feel? What is my experience, right? So this is very important. So reflect for a moment about your own experiences. How does it feel when we are gripped by negative emotions? How does it feel when we are frustrated, angry, jealous, greedy, having endless desires, inconsiderate, selfish, or holding grudges, for example? How does it feel when we are frustrated also with ourselves, right? Because anger is an emotion. We can also have anger towards oneself. So how does it feel when we are frustrated with ourselves and we judge and criticize ourselves? How does it feel when we feel hopeless and disheartened, when we encounter a challenging life and we lose our hope? We have this sense of disheartenment, of giving up. So how does it feel when we experience these emotions, these mental states? Do we have more or less happiness? Do we experience mental peace? Do we experience mental unhappiness? So likewise, how does it feel when we have positive emotions? How does it feel when we are loving and affectionate? How does it feel when we care for others? How does it feel when we show respect and appreciation for others? How does it feel when we are patient and understanding for others? Or how does it feel when others treat us with respect, that sense of caring, understanding, patience, and kindness? How does it feel when others treat us with kindness or just respect or patience, understanding, and really try to understand us, how we are feeling? How does it feel when someone treats us like that? How does it feel? What kind of experience brings to our mind? How does it feel when we have courage to solve our problems? How does it feel? Because we all encounter problems, right? So, but how does it feel? So instead of giving up, instead of feeling hopeless, how does it feel when we have that courage to solve our problems? How does it feel when we are able to face and overcome problems? How does it feel when we can apply our intelligence, our wisdom into solving problems? Do we experience more or less happiness? How does it feel when we are able to bounce back from a challenging life? Something happens, like we fall, but we are able to bounce back from that adversity. How does it feel? This is resilience, right? How fast we can recover from adversity. Do we experience mental peace? Do we experience mental unhappiness? Or how does it feel in the mind when we have these mental health, these healthy mental qualities like courage, patience, resilience, tolerance, kindness, wisdom, compassion, and so on? How does it feel in the mind? Right. So now, too much talking. Hope you guys are not falling asleep. So I'm going to show a video, so hopefully you all guys going to wake up. So this is where the East meets West. So there is one guy that I really like. His name is Richard Davidson. I actually saw him in Dharamsala a couple of times. The first time I saw him, I was too shy. I didn't even go to say hi. And then the second time I said, hi, I like your work. But I didn't ask for a photo. So I missed my photo opportunity. Anyway, Richard Davidson, he's an American neuroscientist, and I love his work. So I will show a video because in his work, that's something we will discuss here, which is what he calls the 4 pillars of well-being, or the 4 pillars of a healthy mind, right? Talking about healthy mental qualities. So there is the Buddhist science of mind that I just touch base today, but there's 51 mental factors. I wish I could explain them all to you guys tonight, but no, that's not possible. But hopefully throughout the course, that's my intention to start to bring that knowledge in. But also what I like is the interface between East and West. So all the things that the ancient sages of the past, the yogis from Asia, have, I guess, contemplated and described, our modern neuroscience has also confirmed exact finds. And I just love to see how science confirms, when science is able to prove ancient knowledge. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Anyway, so he talks about the 4 pillars of a healthy mind. So I will touch base what these 4 pillars are. But just a quick video, and then maybe we do a little bit of a break. Then we do the just to stretch out a bit, just to wake up. Otherwise, we're all going to fall asleep in the meditation. I know there's a lot of information to take in, a lot of reflection. I'm sorry, it's very hard to condense everything in an hour and a half. But just a very short video, and I really like, because anyway, where is it? So let's get the experts to talk. So what he has done is, this is Richard Davidson. He looks quite young in the video. He has taken monks into the lab, and he put all the monks into MRI scans, and they measured the brains of meditators. Oh, that's pretty cool. But he has done a lot of his work. But I don't have a photo with him to show you guys. Okay.
I first met His Holiness the Dalai Lama in 1992. He invited me to talk with him about the possibility of engaging in neuroscientific research with Tibetan monks, practitioners who have spent years training their mind. I began my career studying the disturbed mind. And when I met His Holiness for the first time, he challenged me in a very direct way, and he said, why can't you use the same tools of modern neuroscience that you've been using to study depression and anxiety and fear? Why can't you use those same tools to study kindness and to study compassion? When we first proposed this, most people looked at us like we were absolutely nuts. But here's the experiment. What we do is we bring people into the laboratory and we put a kind of metal plate that we strap onto a person's wrist. And through this plate, we can circulate water very, very rapidly, and we can regulate the temperature of the water. And I could tell you that this is damn hot. It feels like it's burning your skin. So we just give them one experience of this so that they know what we're talking about. They have the direct experience. Then we bring them into the formal experiment, and they're in the MRI scanner. And we tell them we're going to give them 2 tones. When they hear one tone, which is a high-pitched tone, beep, then they know that in 10 seconds, they're going to get zapped with this very painful stimulus. If they hear a low tone, boop, they know that they will just feel warm, but it won't be hot. Very simple. So we have people who've meditated, and we have controls, people who've never meditated, their age and gender matched, and they go through this experiment. Now we know where in the brain the pain circuits reside, so we know exactly where to look. And when we look at those circuits in the non-meditating controls, the moment we present the high-pitched tone, beep, their brain responds as if it received the actual pain. So nothing's happened other than they got a tone, but their brains are responding as if they got the heat. When you do that with the meditators, they receive the tone, beep, nothing happens. There's absolutely no significant change in the pain matrix. They're flat. Then when the actual heat comes on, both groups respond. But then as soon as the pain goes off, the meditators come right back down to baseline, whereas the controls persist. Their pain circuits are still reverberating. It's as if they can't shut them off. They're ruminating about the pain. The conclusion that our work has led us to, very simply, but we think it's a very radical conclusion, and that is that well-being is a skill. Well-being can actually be learned, it can be nurtured, and it's a skill that can enable us to live a happier life. When human beings first evolved on this planet, none of us were brushing our teeth. This is a learned behavior. It's not part of our genome. And if we spent even the short amount of time that we spend every day brushing our teeth, nurturing our mind, this world would be a very different place.
Okay, that's interesting. So well-being is a skill. So how can we take our minds to the gym? Okay, is everyone back here? Because now we're going to talk about the 4 pillars. We're going to talk about happy stuff now. We're going to talk about the 4 pillars of all this suffering. Oh no, life's so difficult. What am I going to do? So that means that chocolate is not happiness? What am I going to do? I thought the chocolate was happiness. Okay, so after all this conversation, suffering, dissatisfaction, so does it mean that, ice cream and chocolate is not happiness? What am I going to do with my life then? I thought that, chocolate was happiness. And it's kind of interesting. So there's a quotation here. I kind of skipped because we don't have enough time, but I'm going to read it. I really like it. It's by Lama Yesh. He says that when you study Buddhist psychology, Buddhist science, you are studying yourself, the nature of your body, speech, and mind, with the main emphasis being on the nature of your mind and how it works in everyday life. Why it is so important to know the nature of our mind, since we all want happiness, enjoyment, peace, and satisfaction, and these things do not come from ice cream, but from wisdom and the mind. We have to understand what our mind is and how it works in everyday life. So life would be perhaps much simpler if happiness did come from ice cream, but that's not really the case. So well-being is a skill. So what do we need to train to have that emotional balance, emotional well-being, to have happiness? So Richard Davidson, he's like he's a friend of mine. And Richard Davidson, this neuroscientist, in his work, what he has developed is what he calls the 4 pillars of a healthy mind. So what are those 4 pillars of a healthy mind? So he came up with 4, right? So first one, awareness, attention. And we can think about awareness, attention. We can think about just being able to focus on a task. And it sounds very simple. However, this is extremely hard for all of us in modern society. Why? Because we are overstimulated all the time, constantly, especially with smartphones and technology. So what happens is we are training towards distraction on a daily basis, 24/7 on a daily basis. And what he said, research says in 2018, so that has been already 5 years have gone by, Harvard research in 2018 said that 47 or 48% of Americans had some type of attention deficit. So with these days, we see ADHD, high levels of attention deficit disorder, right? So why? Well, it is not a surprise, really. Because what do? There's notifications, multitasking. There isn't such thing as multitasking. When we are multitasking, actually our attention is going from A to B, and C all the time. And that's what we do on a daily basis, right? So, and research says that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. First of all, we cannot focus. Sometimes there's someone talking to us. We cannot even focus on that conversation. We try to accomplish some type of work. The mind goes all over the place and we cannot do anything. So it brings a lot of suffering, right? So distraction. There is a quotation that I like. It's by T.C. Eliot, and that was written in 1936. So that's way before modern society, way before smartphones. And he said, we are distracted from distractions by distractions. So fast forward to 2023. Oh my goodness, I wonder how it would be if he was alive these days, right? So it is crazy what we do with our minds on a daily basis without even noticing. So anyway, this is awareness or attention, but this is just one level of attention. There's also something else that neuroscience calls meta-awareness. What is meta-awareness? It's basically introspective ability to watch what's happening inside our mind at any given time. Right? So what is happening now? Am I angry now? Am I frustrated? What am I thinking? What is my motivation here? So this is a meta-awareness, to be able to pay attention to what's happening inside our minds, right? And then we can also think about body awareness. So being body awareness, what am I feeling in my body sensations, and also what is happening. And then when you think about meta-awareness in terms of our mental life, in terms of emotions, right? So this is the first pillar of a healthy mind, awareness. Then the second pillar of a healthy mind, in his research, in his work, he calls connection. So connection means all different types of positive emotions that foster connections with people, right? That gives us that sense of well-being around others. So a feeling of care and kindship towards other people. So appreciation, respect, kindness, compassion, right? So connection. And I would personally include connection to oneself, because again, we can have anger to oneself, self-hatred. We might hate ourselves, right? To a point that, unfortunately, people end up taking their lives. So how do we connect with ourselves and connection with others? What kind of emotions do we have in relation to our self and other people? Then the third pillar of a healthy mind, Richard Davidson describes as insight, and I would also use the term wisdom. So like wisdom. So self-knowledge, so understanding one's emotions, understanding how we exist, what is the self, how do we exist, and also understanding the nature of reality, understanding how things work around us, right? Because the more we have a distorted view of reality, the more we suffer, right? So how do we navigate reality? So this is insight, intelligence, wisdom. And purpose. Purpose is also the last pillar of a healthy mind. So he describes as being clear about one's core values and deeper motivation, and being able to apply them in one's daily life. So skills. So purpose, values, meaning, finding the kind of meaning and purpose in life. So these are the 4 pillars of a healthy mind as described by Richard Davidson. So my idea in this workshop is, so it goes for 6 weeks. So this is like the gym. So they will be like coming to the gym, but we won't be training our bodies, but we'll be giving training to our minds. So idea is to start giving training to the mind, to these different muscles in our minds that we just don't really pay attention to. And this is what the beauty of neuroscience, but neuroscience also talks about neuroplasticity. I don't know how many of you have heard about neuroplasticity. Wow, that's such a big word. What does it mean? Plasticity. So it means the ability of our brains to constantly shape itself, right? Either intentionally or unintentionally. But the problem with us is that we're constantly shaping our minds unintentionally, because what? We're not paying attention to what's happening here. So what is our unintentional shape of our minds? We're always giving a lot of training to worries, anxiety, anger, resentment, jealousy, fear. Wow, great. And how much happiness do we have? None. Right, so this is what it is. So we give a lot of training, but to the wrong muscles. Right, so it's about giving training, exercising the 4 pillars of well-being. This is what neuroscience has proven, and that's what also gives us hope. Great, because it depends. It's a habit. So, and he explained that is, for example, when we first arrive on this planet, we didn't brush our teeth, so we can develop, we can create new habits. Right, so it's all about habituation. Questions at the end. So we have to skip, but keep your questions to the end. So it's about creating habits, habituating our minds. Okay, and that leads us to exactly meditation, habits. And just before I explain what meditation is all about, I'm just going to read a quotation. So what is emotional balance? So Alan Wallace, the first video that we have watched tonight, so that's Alan Wallace, how he defines emotional balance. So he says, emotional balance is a state of mind that is free from disturbing emotions or unhealthy emotions or unhealthy mental states, right? And conducive to happiness and well-being. So when we have a mind free from unhealthy mental states or negative emotions, this is emotional balance, this is well-being. And for us to achieve that, we need to stop giving training to certain muscles, or we need to start giving training to other muscles. And that leads us to then, okay, meditation, which is very interesting, right? Meditation workshop. What is meditation? Meditation is a term, is an English term, I guess, translated from the Tibetan. What is the Tibetan equivalent of meditation is gompa. And the Sanskrit equivalent is bhavana. And what is the meaning of gom or bhavana? Cultivation, habituation. So even in a daily conversation, because I did try to study a bit of a Tibetan language, it's so hard. But anyway, but even having a conversation, gompa, it means habit, habituation. So that's the meaning of meditation, right? So meditation is not only relaxation strategies or techniques, but talking about habits and neuroscience is about cultivating the mind. It's about creating positive mental habits that are the causes of well-being and happiness. So this is the meaning of meditation: familiarization, cultivation, to cultivate the mind, to cultivate healthy mental qualities that are the causes of well-being. We can think about two types of meditation. There is analytical meditation. There's also placement meditation. Analytical meditation means analysis, right? So we are analyzing something. So normally, probably all the different kinds of guided meditations that we do that involves some type of analysis, we are analyzing something, right? So this is analytical meditation. There's also placement meditation or single pointness meditation, which means we're not analyzing, not thinking, but just watching, observing. So for example, when we just place our attention or we bring awareness to our breath, inhale, exhale, we're not doing anything really, we're not analyzing, but our monkey might start to analyze and think about dinner, right? But just watching, merely watching, this is placement meditation. We're just paying attention. We just trying to, the opposite of distraction, we're trying to cultivate that attention, just placing single pointness of mind on a particular object. So two types of meditation. So why should we meditate? What are the benefits? Because whatever we do, so what's the point? Why should I bother, right? So, as we all want happiness again, right? So what is happiness and well-being? So that's something we all aspire for, right? So if we want well-being of body and well-being of mind, so it is necessarily to look after, to take care of our health, both our physical and also mental health, emotional health. So meditation is like can be compared to a mental gym. It is an opportunity to train our minds, to cultivate certain muscles, right? To give some training to our biceps or triceps of the mind, if that makes. Of course, we don't have muscles, just an analogy. Okay. And that is also leads then just to another point, which is when we think about when we are learning something, right? There's 3 levels of understanding. We can think about what are these 3 levels of understanding? Learning. So first of all, we listen to something or we read about something, or these days we watch things online. This is the first level of understanding. We expose ourselves to new information. One level of understanding. The second level of understanding is reflection, contemplation. So whatever we read or we listen or we watch, without that contemplation, reflection is necessary for the knowledge to become stable. The problem with our educational system is that most of our knowledge remains here, informative, right? We read, even for myself, how many books have I read? 1,000, and you put back on the shelf and you just forget about it, right? We watch so many videos and movies. Oh, what was the movie watched last week? Can't even remember, right? So most of our knowledge stays here, informative. We just read, we listen to something, we forget. So learning, and also what I'm explaining here tonight, yes, listening, important, but then reflection, contemplation, that's the second level of understanding. Then meditation. So meditation is important. So why? So then our knowledge becomes experiential, visceral. And it's only when we have an experiential, visceral experience of knowledge, experiential experience sounds terrible. But anyway, it's only when we have this visceral, experiential knowledge that knowledge can be transformative. And when we think about well-being and happiness, for us to have that happiness, it's very important that our knowledge to become experiential, right? So only, for example, listening about what is anger, what is meditation, great, but we also need to bring that to our experience. It needs to become an integral part of who we are, and that's how we can bring about transformation in terms of our mind and emotions. So there's 3 levels of understanding. So whatever we learn, right, and especially when we talk about happiness and well-being, whatever we learn, either through listening, reading, watching a video, whatever we learn is in order to contemplate. We need reflection. We need contemplation. We need to think over and over again about the same thing. Whatever we contemplate is in order to meditate. And whatever we meditate is to have emotional well-being, to have happiness. So this threefold of learning, contemplation, and meditation is aimed at reducing our emotional distress and achieving emotional well-being. So this is the mental gym. That's the gym for the mind. We need to go through these 3 levels of understanding to be able to have some transformative experience in terms of our well-being. So now we will meditate. Great. So meditation. So we're going to talk about the 7 postures for meditation. So that means that lying down is okay, but then when we meditate, there's 2 major obstacles for meditation. So there's laxity and excitation. So laxity, as if we're just slouching or just lying around, then what happens? The mind becomes very dull and loses its power. So yes, meditation can be relaxation, but not necessarily. So we need to have a body posture that then makes the mind serviceable. Yes, right. Okay, so 7 points posture. To sit cross-legged, but for most of us, it's kind of difficult talking about habituation. Why? Because we are habituated on sitting on chairs, and that's fine. So we can sit on chairs, that's not a problem. But we can imagine, we can visualize that we are sitting cross-legged. Yes, I'm sitting cross-legged, right? But what is the most important in meditation when you think about the 7 points posture is to have a spine straight spine, straight as an arrow, the shoulders open as the wings of an eagle. Then we can place the right hand on top of the left hand, and we can connect the thumbs. And then the head just tilting downwards like this. And just by sitting in this posture, you already bring some type of peace to the mind, because the mind becomes serviceable, because the mind depends on the body. So that means that the mind becomes more relaxed and serviceable just by sitting in this position. Then we have the the jaw and the mouth relaxed. We can relax the jaw. With the eyes, and again with the eyes, we can close our eyes, but the problem when we close our eyes is then there is the danger of laxity. So we can keep our eyes half open, half closed. But then if it's uncomfortable, we can close, because we're not going to meditate for too long, but we can, again, the meta-awareness. So just pay attention. So if laxity is just about to arise, we can slightly open our eyes. But this is the 7 points posture for meditation. So what we'll do, I will just quickly show you guys with my hands just before we start. We're going to alternate the nostrils. So I guess all of you can give it a go. So if we take our right hand, and then we just, so the first inhalation, yeah, and then we do like this, and we exhale. Then again like this, inhaling, then exhaling. So that will be the first round. We start off, and I will guide you through, but just to get used to it. So right hand. Then the second round, we begin with the left index finger, left nostril, inhaling through the right, with the right, then exhaling, and inhaling, and exhaling. Then the last round, we do both nostrils. So just a normal inhalation and exhalation. So, and I will guide you throughout the meditation. So you guys can just for a few moments, just checking with the posture again, either sitting cross-legged or not, but you can imagine, visualize that you are sitting cross-legged, the spine straight as an arrow, the shoulders open like the wings of an eagle. We place the right hand on top of the left. We can connect the two thumbs, and this is called the mudra of equanimity. With the head just slightly tilting downwards, relaxing the jaw and the mouth. Can close our eyes. And just paying attention, just noticing the breath for a few minutes. That's all we have to do. Attention, attention, awareness. Inhalation and exhalation. How we start the meditation. So the first part is to have joy. So it's very important to bring joy to the mind in whatever we do. So how can we develop joy when we meditate? We can set up a good motivation before our meditation. Otherwise, we can get angry or frustrated while we meditate. So what is the goal? What is our aim when we engage in meditation? Is to train our mind to have happiness and well-being, and to alleviate mental distress and emotional distress. So before we start our meditation with a positive motivation, we can think, I or we as a group tonight, we will engage in this meditation practice to bring happiness, peace, and well-being to myself and others. And we will engage in this meditation practice tonight to alleviate our own and other people and everyone else emotional distress, right? We all want happiness. So we can bring a positive motivation to mind that helps to bring us joy. So just for a few moments, just paying attention, inhalation, exhalation. So when we will do the 9 rounds breathing exercise, breathing meditation, and then as we inhale, we can visualize, imagine that we are inhaling. We're breathing inside well-being, right? Happiness and well-being. And then when we exhale, we will visualize we are exhaling dirty air, inhaling the clean air together with happiness, and then exhaling dirty air together with problems or mental distress, right? We're going to inhale the vitamins for the mind, and we're going to get rid of the toxins. So we can just take our right hand, and you guys not sure can just look at me, but just with the right index finger. Then we take an inhalation with the left nostril, and we visualize clean air. Inhaling clean air. Then we exhale, we switch nostrils, and then taking an exhalation. And we exhale dirty air together with all the problems of mind. Then we take another inhalation. And we inhale, we visualize clean air together with all the happiness and well-being. Then another exhalation. And we exhale, we get rid of all the dirty air together with all the problems. Then another inhalation. And we visualize that we are inhaling clean air with all the happiness and well-being. Then we take our left hand, that's the second round, and just on the touching the left nostril, and we take an inhalation with the right. And we inhale all the happiness, clean air, all the clean air going inside our body and mind together with all the happiness and well-being. And then with exhale, and we get rid of all the dirty air together with all the problems. Then we take another inhalation. Then we exhale and we visualize we're getting rid, we're exhaling all the dirty air together with all the problems of mind. Taking another inhalation. Visualizing clean air together with all the happiness and well-being. Then we take an exhalation. And we exhale dirty air together with all the problems of mind. And now we do an inhalation and exhalation with both nostrils. So we take an inhalation. And we imagine we are inhaling clean air together with all the happiness and well-being. And then we exhale. Dirty air together with all the problems of mind. Taking an inhalation. Then taking an exhalation. And then we do the last round. So now we can really visualize that we're taking inside all the vitamins A, B, and C for the mind. And we're gonna get rid of all the mental problems, all the worries, all the fears, anxiety, whatever might be troubling us. So taking a deep inhalation. And then exhalation. And just for a moment, just to stay there, to remain in this position with the mind open and relaxed. And we can think that we got rid of all the problems, all the worries, hopes, and fears. And we've taken inside all the vitamins, we've taken all the vitamins A, B, and C over the mind. So we got rid of all the problems. The common way of thinking when problems come is that we normally try to do everything we can to avoid them or to ignore them. But life is a series of problems, of challenges. Life is difficult, and this is a great truth, one of the greatest ones. it is a great truth, because once we truly see, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, that we're all going to face challenges in life, once we truly understand and accept, then life is no longer difficult, because once it is accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. Life is a series of problems, yet it is in this whole process of meeting and solving problems that life has its meaning. Problems call forth our courage and wisdom. Indeed, they create our courage and wisdom. It is only because of problems that we can grow mentally and spiritually. So, when problems come, we do not need to become disheartened, but we can become courageous. Whatever problems come, let them come. We can think that we will face and overcome whatever problem comes our way. We will never give up. And this is how we can develop courage and confidence in oneself. Problems are a given of life. They are part of our shared human experience. So how can we solve our problems? Firstly, by not holding on to problems as if they were so precious, by not keeping them inside our minds. Every morning as we wake up, we can breathe in, visualizing the clean air, and breathe out, visualizing that we're getting rid of all the problems, but not to keep the problems inside our minds. Instead of seeing problems as problems, we can see problems as an advice. Instead of holding on to problems as problems, we can reflect on what is the advice there for us. How can we solve our problem? How we can reduce our distress? What is the advice that this problem is offering us in terms of developing courage, resilience, patience, and wisdom? By welcoming and facing problems, we gain experience, we develop resilience, and we gain confidence in oneself. So we can use our problems as material to cultivate healthy mental qualities such as courage, resilience, patience, and wisdom. Without mud, there is no lotus. Without suffering, there is no happiness. Out of suffering, out of problems, the flowers of courage, resilience, patience, wisdom can blossom. It is only because of adversities, it's only because of problems that we grow mentally and spiritually in life. So when problems come, they are all conditions for us to develop healthy qualities of mind. So we need to habituate, to cultivate this on a daily basis. We need to give training to our minds, take our minds to the mental gym. We will have all different kinds of experiences in our lives. Joy, sadness, and everything in between. When suffering comes, we should never give up. As time passes, happiness will come. And when it does, we will recognize happiness as being happiness. Troubles and suffering and problems can help us, but we should not keep problems in the mind and never give up. It is just temporary. The way we think is extremely important. If we think it is a problem, then it becomes a serious problem. If we think it is a serious problem, it becomes a severe problem. On the other hand, if we think it is not a problem, it is an advice, it is an opportunity for us to cultivate healthy qualities of mind like courage, resilience, wisdom, patience, kindness, compassion, then it is no longer a problem. We can perhaps just move our bodies to some, I don't know, whatever your body needs. Just a bit of a waking up a little bit. Okay.